Welcome to Unit 5, Lesson 2. In this lesson, we will still be looking at solving problems that involve percent. So just like in Unit 5, Lesson 1. In the first lesson, we were focusing on solving problems where you were being asked to find a percent of a total. So we were given a value that was the whole amount, and then we were being asked to find a percent of that whole. Now we're going to look at questions where we might be asked to find other parts of that relationship. So we might be asked to find the percent, we might be asked to find the part, or again, we could be asked to find the whole. So there are all different parts to a percent problem. So think about if you make an 85 on a test, that's an 85%. Well, there are lots of numbers involved in that. 85% represents your score out of a possible 100, but you also have the number of questions that were on the test, and then you also have the number of questions that you answered correctly. So you've got a part, a whole, and a percent. And in this lesson, we're going to focus on how to solve these problems by setting up a proportion. So in Unit 5, Lesson 2, we're specifically focusing on solving percent problems by setting up a proportion. So if you look at your notes, you will see exactly what we call the percent proportion, what that looks like. So we write it as part over whole equals percent over 100. Or you could flip sides and say percent over 100 equals part over whole. You could say it that way as well. But because we're dealing in percents, we'll always have 100 there in the denominator because we're talking about a relationship that's out of 100. So we'll always have that. And then you'll have your part and your whole. So when you're answering questions that involve percents, probably the most important thing that you do is to decide, what is it that I'm being asked for? Am I being asked to find the percent? Am I being asked to find the part? Am I being asked to find the whole? So decide that up front. So before you start any sort of calculation, make sure you know what it is that you're being asked to find. So kind of like a detective. And then once you know what you're being asked to find, then you can plug in what you know to the proportion and figure out the missing piece of the puzzle. So look at the first one. Greg has edited 228 pages of a 560-page novel. What percent of the novel has he edited? So if my first job is to figure out what am I being asked to find, I'm going to focus on the question. So it says what percent? So I'm being asked to find the percent. That means it must tell me the part and the whole. 228 is the part that he's edited. 560 is the whole novel. So when we set up our proportion, we can say 228 pages out of 560 pages would be how many pages out of 100? Or what percent would that be? And then once we're at that point, then we're able to solve this just like a proportion where we can say 560 times x would equal 228 times 100. So if we do 228 times 100, and y'all might know a trick for this. I'll show it both ways. So if I actually multiply it out, it's kind of a lengthy process. And then move over twice. And then we have an 8, a 2, and a 2. And we get 22,800. But another thing that you can do when you're multiplying by 100 is just go to the end of the number and move your decimal 2 to the right. So that's 22,800. And then I'll need to divide that. I'll need to divide that by 560. So we're going to divide 22,800 by 560. So 22,800 divided by 560. 560, of course, will not go into 2. It won't go into 22, and it won't go into 228. So I'm trying to figure out how many times will 560 go into 2,280. Let's try 5. And that's a little too big. So we'll try 4. And that works. So that gives us 2,240. We'll subtract And then 560 won't go into 400. So we could raise a decimal. Oops, I put a 0 right there. And then drop that 0. Now we have 560 into 4,000. And 7 times. That hasn't come out evenly, but we're looking at about 41. So that would be 41 out of 100. So he has edited about 41% of the novel. So a little less than half, because half would be 50%. Okay, the next one. Aliana has decorated 48 cupcakes. That represents 30% of the total number of cupcakes. What is the total number of cupcakes? Again, your first job is to figure out what is it that I'm being asked to find. So I go to the question, what is the total number of cupcakes? So I'm being asked to find the total or the whole amount. So when I set up my proportion, the part is 48. That's the part that she's decorated. Out of, we don't know. That's what we're looking for, out of the whole. But I do know that that 48, the 48 that she's decorated, that represents 30% of the total. So 30 out of 100. And now I can just solve this like a proportion. So I'll do 48 times 100, which is just, of course, 4,800, and then divide that by 30. So 48 times 100 is 4,800, and then we'll divide that by 30. And 30 goes into 48 once. Up to 0, 30 goes into 186 times, and that is 180. And 30 goes into 0 times. So there must have been 160 total cupcakes. Again, we're just plugging into that proportion that says part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay, last one. About 76% of the 7th grade students will attend the game. There are 220 7th grade students. How many will attend the game? Okay. So we know the percent, and we know the total number of students. So if I want to figure out what I'm being asked for, I look at the question and it says, how many will attend the game? So I want to know the part that will attend the game. I already know the whole and the percent. So when I set up my proportion, I don't know the part that will attend the game. That's what I'm looking for. But I know that that's out of a total of 220 students. And I know that that is 76%. So I'll do 76 times 220 and then divide it by 100. So 220 times 76. So that's 16,720, and then divide that by 100. And to divide by 100, you simply move the decimal 2 to the left. So 167.2. So we would say that's about 167. So that is how you use the percent proportion to solve problems that involve percents. You can use this to find out the percent, the part, the whole. Any piece of the puzzle can be figured out as long as you know the 3 other pieces. And you will always know when you're dealing with percents that 100 is part of the puzzle, because that's what percent means. Percent means out of 100. So again, that percent proportion is part over whole equals percent over 100. And you just plug in the values that you know and then use that to figure out the value that you're being asked for. And that's it for Unit 5, Lesson 2. If you have some more questions or want to see some more examples, let me know. And if you're ready for the skill check to be open, I'll be happy to do that. Have a great day.